Hello, this is Mr. Huff, and we're going to talk about assembling the cam and the automata simulation assembly. So I'm going to hold it right here. At this point you should already have your cam defined. You should have added in the additional work planes as directed in step 4 and the axis through the center. This is the snail cam, so it's a little different than the other ones, but this is what you need. Okay, so place that part, and then you're going to choose the mate constraint, and you're going to mate this work plane with the midpoint work plane of your cam, and it will align those. The next thing you need to do is add a constraint between the axis that passes through the cam and the axis that passes through the center of the axle. The next constraint we need to apply is between your snail cam rotation plane. It's the one that is going to attach to the plane that cuts through the axis of rotation for the crank and the axle. So make sure you're selecting those work planes. Notice how the corners turn yellow when you have it on that specific plane. And when I apply that, so we should be able to go, I'm trying to move the follower up here. Okay, so if we've got that, we'll see that the snail cam and the crank follow each other. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is add a transitional constraint. So we choose transitional, and we're going to choose the bottom of the follower and the outer surface of the cam. And what this is going to do is, as the cam moves, the follower is always going to be in contact with that surface. And we can see that as we turn the crank, now the follower follows on top of the snail cam. I have seen a problem with the snail cam if you there are certain places where it will drop down to the axle, and if that happens, just hit Control-Z. It seems to be a math error it runs into every now and then, especially if you turn it backwards, but it may occasionally get stuck in the middle. Alright, the next thing we need to do is turn off a work plane and turn on a work plane. We're going to turn on the visibility for angle of rotation for the follower, and hide mate with mid plane of cam, and then we're going to go to our cam, and we are going to apply an angle constraint between this angle of rotation for the follower. And I had some trouble here, so at this point, after I put that in there, it didn't work. So I went back and reread the directions. So I made sure that the angle of rotation of the follower and the angle of rotation of the cam planes are visible. And then we went in and put a mate constraint. No, it's not a mate, it's a directed angle. Let's make sure we get the right constraint. So choose constraint, choose angle, choose directed angle, and then make sure you choose the work plane on the follower. And notice how the corners turn yellow. Make sure you have the right plane. And then we're going to choose the angle of rotation for the cam plane, and then click apply. Okay, once you get that in place, you can go here where it says angle and 0 degrees. You can change that to any number that you like except for 1. So On this one, I put it in at 45 degrees and it works. Put it in at 90 degrees, it works. And you can go on to, when you go to 180, it's going to complain and say, I can't really resolve that relationship. But if you do 179 or 181, it seems to work. It goes to 225, it's going to go to 270. So all the other angles you need, it's going to work. The 180 gave me problems, so you can just add a degree to it, and that will bypass that. Also, to suppress this restraint, you can right click on it and suppress that angle constraint, and that lets you turn the cam any way you like. So at this point, I've walked through what the instructions tell you to do, and this should get you to the point of where you can start doing your data collection.